So, turning our attention to Super Sad True Love Story. Here I am on the official site. You might want to check this out. Gives a little overview. If you are reading the ebook version, then this will look familiar. You don't have to use Amazon by any means. You notice I've said chapter 12, and the table of contents is very clear about the chapters. No need to worry about the pages. So if you purchase or access the ebook through a different site, or pick it up from the library, pick it up used, totally up to you. Not a big deal. You don't have to purchase the ebook, but if that's convenient, then we're just paying a convenience fee to be able to pull this up on any device you would like to read. Now, one thing that I'm going to suggest before I talk about the novel, let me just wrap up with this about a good strategy while reading is taking notes. So one thing that we have at a feature that we have here available with the ebook is being able to use Snagit as you've done while reading. So let's say you see a sentence that you particularly like or something that jumps out to you and you want to save that for later. Remember that you have unlimited storage in your CU Google Drive account, and these are very small images. So screen cap as much as you like, and then maybe post this and include a screen capture like this in your blog entry for Sunday. But even good just to have references at hand for them being able to write about what's going on in the novel, something that generates an idea for you. Like I've highlighted this sentence about opening the apparat, which just think of that as your smartphone, your pocket internet device. So the character says, I took out my apparat, flicked it open in a gesture that was au courant maybe a decade ago. So I highlighted that thinking about the sense of time. Smartphones have been around a little while, but this gives a sense that it is in the not so distant future. But as I said, you can annotate this and mark it up and save it for yourself, or just grab screen captures. It's super easy on your mobile reading device or reading on your pocket internet device as I started reading the novel. Then maybe just take screen capture of that. But yeah, it's more so for you, but as well, it'd be good for posting specific passages or sentences that jump out to you or that generate ideas. I think we should do that, and you might even want to reply to classmates with a screen capture or an audio reply to one of their screen captures. So keep that in mind, that you have Snagit at hand when reading the ebook. Now, if you want to take a picture of the physical print book, that is totally up to you. It might be more work than it's worth, but yeah, go for it. As for the novel itself, just to give a brief introduction, I mentioned how keep in mind that we want to read this to help us examine and consider our question of digital identity, how identity experience or how experience itself is mediated through technology, media, culture. So thinking about identity, but also experience, and all of that is up front and center right away in the novel. You'll see just what I mean when you get started. So on that note about getting started, if you have browsed around, if you are looking for some information about it, not too much useful information on Wikipedia, near future dystopian setting here. Well, I would say that this is not science fiction necessarily, but that near future aspect is something that you might think about. So that's not too helpful there. No Spark Notes or eNotes. This site that I searched, not super helpful either. Even the character reviews, this might be helpful to read as you are going along, because the novel itself is composed in an unusual way, where the chapters are from the point of view from one of the two main characters, either Lenny Abramov or Eunice Park. So in this way, I would say maybe think of it more as actually like a television series where you get scenes and mostly dialogue, some narration, but we get glimpses, we get parts of the story as it goes on, and it alternates, more or less alternates back and forth between either Lenny or Eunice. Now, one thing to consider as we were reading and taking notes and discussing on Friday and Sunday, think more about how the characters and the narration communicate, or how the characters communicate, and how the narration is communicated, more so than what is conveyed. So we don't have to spend much time talking about, you know, character plot details so much as why we're reading this. Yeah, I think you'll see what I mean about how it is conveyed. So, for instance, the way that Eunice communicates is her chapters are her global teens account. Just think of that as Facebook, kind of like Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, Skype, everything combined all in one. And that global teens, especially like Facebook Messenger or Skyping or FaceTime, you'll see how that happens with live chatting. So you're right. To clarify a few things, the Apparat is a smartphone or a pocket internet device. Global Teens is an account, much like Facebook with the live messenger features. So that's what I'm saying about. Think about more so how the information is being communicated to us, or even just on the simple level, look at how the characters communicate with each other. Even as I mentioned, using the Global Teens chapter, once we switch to Eunice in chapter 2. Whereas Lenny is composing in a diary, just like Retberg, How We See Ourselves Through Technology book, think back to that in Unit 1, talking about knowing ourselves through writing. So that's foregrounded right at the beginning of the book, how Lenny knows himself through print, reading, writing, and how Eunice communicates with people in post-print ways. Now, I don't say too much more about that. Just a couple of other things to clarify. It might be a little confusing as you get going. Lenny works in Post-Human Services. That company is looking to how to live forever. So there is a youth obsession. But again, we don't need to get bogged down in themes like that. Instead, we might look at how that relates with technology and identity. A couple acronyms that pop up, something like HNWIs, High Net Worth Individuals, or FAC, Form a Community. Again, all this relates with that experiencing the world and other people through the apparat, the network technology of the global communications network. I don't see anything here at the beginning. This is just straight up diary entry. One last thing to note is you'll see a couple of things pop up a little later about there's a software called RateMe and RateMe Plus, and there's that credit, personality, and hotness that are listed right here. Credit, personality, hotness, everyone has these, whether you like them or not, in the world of the novel. So that's something where it is fiction. It's not grounded in the reality of today, although we can relate with this with a quantified identity in many ways, including like a credit score. But in the novel, that is visible to everyone under the guise of sustainability of their personal ratings, or hotness, which is fuckability. Sorry, excuse the language of the novel. Speaking of which, language from Steingart, I think I will end here by playing this from him to get you thinking about the attention to language and how, like I said, how the novel might help us pay attention, examine a little more closely aspects of our digital identity experience and mediated experience of everyday life that has become very familiar to us in the new media, networked media ecology. So here's Steingart in his language in the novel.
I write to entertain as much as to provoke thoughts. So for me, if the reader isn't laughing or isn't having any kind of visceral reaction to the book, then the book has failed, I think. When it comes to writing young dialogue, the key is to really perk up your ears and to hear how young people are speaking. I teach at Columbia too, so it's helpful to be surrounded by youngins, to hear how they're speaking. And Columbia, obviously these are very smart young people, but our language is always being degraded in the best ways possible. OMFG, it really is. So in the book, There's some new acronyms. There's JBF, which means I'm just butt fucking you. That's the simplest. That's just something you say to your friend in the street. Hey, JBF, I'm just butt fucking you. There's Timatov, which is Timatov. Think I'm about to openly vomit. Yeah, the vomit has to be stretched into at least 3 syllables.
So the way that Steiner gives us a little clue here is to read the dialogue, like I said earlier about a television show. Imagine you're watching these characters communicating with each other through dialogue interaction, whether it is in person, as Eunice would say, to verbal someone, as opposed to FaceTiming, Skyping, or texting, sending image to image someone. But that tip about how language has changed and how people communicate through all sorts of forms of media and technology and culture forms as well. Thinking about all of our topics from the semester could be really useful. For the first few days, I would say just enjoy reading. I hope you'll like it. I think that you will, and I think that it will generate some interesting ideas for us.